Hi fam, welcome back to my channel. If you're new, welcome. My name is Akubeze and I'm a Christian content creator based in Lagos, Nigeria. Back with another episode of my faith series in which we are studying the great examples of faith that are listed in Hebrews 11. And this week we are continuing with the study of the faith of Moses. It's very interesting that Moses gets like 3 weeks because he is one of the most important figures in the Christian faith, especially because of the role he played in leading the Israelites like out of slavery into the promised land. He didn't eventually get there, but we'll get there. And even in leaving those first 4 books in the Bible for us, because it is reputed that he's the one who wrote the first few books in the Bible. So let's get right into the word. By the way, I just want to say that I'm sorry for the delay in getting this video up. Like, so much has been going on personally and just all around me. And yeah, I relate so much to Moses and his delay in doing what God had told him to do, because I feel like I'm literally having to fight to get this video up. And even yesterday I tried going live, it wasn't working out, and yeah, it's just interesting how much this story is relatable to me. So sorry for the long wait, but we are finally back. So I hope you did the assignment, because no excuses, you've had time. And I hope you're blessed by this study. Our reading starts from Hebrews 11 from verse 24 to 27. It says that it was by faith that Moses, when he grew up, refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter. He chose to share the oppression of God's people instead of enjoying the fleeting pleasures of sin. He thought it was better to suffer for the sake of Christ than to own the treasures of Egypt, for he was looking ahead to his great reward. It was by faith that Moses left the land of Egypt, not fearing the king's anger. He kept right on going because he kept his eyes on the one who is invincible. The first thing that stands out to me there is that when Moses grew up, last week we studied Moses' faith journey, but we were really focused on his parents' faith journey and the fact that, they were able to preserve him. They saw that he was a special child and they didn't kill him in accordance with the Pharaoh's commands at the time. And so, his faith at that point was really just his parents' faith. But when Moses grew up, he then refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter. And so it showed me that there is this transition between, your baby faith, when you are relying on other people's faith to kind of sustain you. And there is a difference between that and your faith when you grow up and you decide to start taking decisions that are in alignment with God and his will for you. So the next thing that stood out to me was that Moses chose to share the oppression of God's people instead of enjoying the fleeting pleasures of sin. And it's like a direct contrast here, because it's like on one hand you share oppression, or the other hand you enjoy the pleasures of sin. And the key word there is the fleeting pleasures of sin, actually, because like I said, me personally, I'm in this season where I feel like I am battling to do what God is telling me to do. Like, there's an easy way to just relax and enjoy and be taken care of and just, like, laze around and just enjoy the things that are coming my way in this season. But it's like God is asking me to do more, to exert myself. And I don't know, maybe that's why this section in particular stood out to me, that it's not easy. You're sharing the oppression. Even hard work is sometimes oppressing, so it's like, do you do the hard work that is oppressing but has lasting consequences, or do you just enjoy the fleeting pleasures of sin? There is that contrast that you are going to have to face in your matured faith walk. The next thing that stood out is that, he thought it was better to suffer for the sake of Christ than to own the treasures of Egypt, because he was looking forward to his great reward. So it kind of ties into the last point, when you are focused on the bigger picture, the greater reward than just those fleeting pleasures of sin, it allows you to make, better decisions for your faith. And in verse 27, we are told that Moses left the land of Egypt not fearing the king's anger. He kept right on going because he kept his eyes on the one who is invincible. This point was very interesting to me because you read this line and you think to myself, wow, Moses, what a bold man. Look at this. Kept on going, not fearing the king's anger, and he kept his eyes on the one who is invincible. But we get into the gist of Moses' story in Exodus 2, Exodus 3, and Exodus 4, and you see that really and truly this guy was not as fearless and bold as they made it seem in Hebrews. So let's get into the story in Exodus. In Exodus 2, we're reading from verse 11 to 25. It says, Many years later, when Moses had grown up, he went out to visit his own people, the Hebrews, and he saw how hard they were forced to work. During his visit, he saw an Egyptian beating one of his fellow Hebrews. After looking in all directions to make sure no one was watching, Moses killed the Egyptian and hid the body in the sand. Excuse me? The leader of our faith committing murder? Okay, let's keep going. The next day, when Moses went out to visit his people again, he saw two Hebrew men fighting. Why are you beating up your friend? Moses said to the one who had started the fight. The man replied, Who appointed you to be our prince and our judge? Are you going to kill me as you killed that Egyptian yesterday? Then Moses was afraid, thinking, Everyone knows what I did. And sure enough, Pharaoh heard what had happened and he tried to kill Moses. But Moses fled from Pharaoh and went to live in the land of Midian. So sorry, this does not correlate to what we just learned. This guy was afraid and he ran from the king. So how are you now telling me in Hebrews 11 that he left the land not fearing the king's anger? But let's keep going. When Moses arrived in Midian, he sat down beside a well. Now the priest of Midian had 7 daughters who came as usual to draw water and fill the water troughs for their father's flock. But some other shepherds came and chased them away. So Moses jumped up and rescued the girls from the shepherds. Then he drew water for their flocks. When the girls returned to Reuel, their father, he asked, Why are you back so soon today? An Egyptian rescued us from the shepherds, they answered, and then he drew water for us and watered our flocks. Then where is he? Their father asked. Why did you leave him there? Invite him to come and eat with us. Moses accepted the invitation and he settled there with him. In time, Reuel gave Moses his daughter Zipporah to be his wife. Later, she gave birth to a son, and Moses named him Gershon, for he explained, I have been a foreigner in a foreign land. Years passed by and the king of Egypt died, but the Israelites continued to groan under their burden of slavery. They cried out for help, and their cry rose up to God. God heard their groaning, and he remembered his covenant promise to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He looked down on the people of Israel and knew it was time to act. So it's so interesting. This part of the story doesn't seem to really correlate with what we saw in Hebrews. It painted Moses to be such a valiant man, and this guy who was so conscious of God and his power and his reward, like the invisible one. And all this while, it really seemed like Moses was just acting on vibes. Moses was a very, scared kind of person, very easily intimidated. He was, what you can see though already is that he was a helpful person. He was empathetic. He was kind of person that would see a problem and not ignore it. So you're seeing some of his traits, but I'm not really seeing his faith yet. So let's keep going. In Exodus 3, we are now told the story of Moses and the burning bush. One day Moses was tending the flock of his father-in-law, Jethro, the priest of Midian. He led the flock far into the wilderness and came to Sinai, the mountain of God. There the angel of the Lord appeared to him in a blazing fire from the middle of a bush. Moses stared in amazement. Though the bush was engulfed in flames, it didn't burn up. This is amazing, Moses said to himself. Why isn't that bush burning up? I must go see it. When the Lord saw Moses coming to take a closer look, God called to him from the middle of the bush. Moses, Moses, here I am, Moses replied. Do not come any closer, the Lord warned. Take off your sandals, for you are standing on holy ground. I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. When Moses heard this, he covered his face because he was afraid to look at God. Again, it's not adding up. He was afraid to look at God. And they were talking about he kept his eyes on the one who is invisible. But he saw a physical burning bush. He saw a physical manifestation of this great God who he was having an encounter with. So, I'm like, This Hebrews writer, what's really going on? But let's keep going. Then the Lord said to him, I have certainly seen the oppression of my people in Egypt. I have heard their cries of distress because of their harsh slave drivers. Yes, I am aware of their suffering, so I have come down to rescue them from the power of the Egyptians and lead them out of Egypt into their own fertile and spacious land. It is a land flowing with milk and honey, the land where the Canaanites, Hittites, Amorites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites now live. Look, the cry of the people of Israel has reached me, and I have seen how harshly the Egyptians abuse them. Now go, for I am sending you to Pharaoh. You must lead my people Israel out of Egypt. But Moses protested to God, who am I to appear before Pharaoh? Who am I to lead the people of Israel out of Egypt? God answered, I will be with you. And this is your sign. I am the one who has sent you. When you have brought the people out of Egypt, you will worship God at this very mountain. But Moses protested. This guy was not willingly choosing to share the oppression of God's people like they told us in Hebrews. But let's keep going. If I go to the people of Israel and tell them, the God of your ancestors has sent me to you, they will ask me, what is his name? Then what should I tell them? God replied to Moses, I am who I am. Say this to the people of Israel, I am has sent me to you. God also said to Moses, say this to the people of Israel, Yahweh, the God of your ancestors, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob has sent me to you. This is my eternal name, my name to remember for all generations. Now go and call together all the elders of Israel. Tell them Yahweh, the God of your ancestors, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob has appeared to me. He told me, I have been watching closely and I see how the Egyptians are treating you. I have promised to rescue you from your oppression in Egypt. I will lead you to a land flowing with milk and honey, the land where the Canaanites, Hittites, Amorites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites now live. The elders of Israel will accept your message. Then you and the elders must go to the king of Egypt and tell him, the Lord, the God of the Hebrews, has met with us. So please let us take a 3-day journey into the wilderness to offer sacrifices to the Lord our God. But I know that the king of Egypt will not let you go unless a mighty hand forces him. So I will raise my hand and strike the Egyptians, performing all kinds of miracles among them. Then at last he will let you go, and I will cause the Egyptians to look favorably upon you. They will give you gifts when you go, so that you will not leave empty-handed. Every Israelite woman will ask for articles of silver and gold and fine clothing from her Egyptian neighbors and from the foreign women in their houses. You will dress your sons and daughters with these, stripping the Egyptians of their wealth. But Moses protested again. Really? What if they won't believe me or listen to me? What if they say the Lord never appeared to you? Then the Lord asked him, what is in your hand? A shepherd's staff, Moses replied. Throw it down on the ground, the Lord told him. So Moses threw down the staff and it turned into a snake. Moses jumped back. Then the Lord told him, reach out and grab its tail. So Moses reached out and grabbed it, and it turned back into a shepherd's staff in his hand. Perform this sign, the Lord told him, then they will believe that the Lord, the God of their ancestors, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob really has appeared to you. Then the Lord said to Moses, now put your hand inside your cloak. So Moses put his hand inside his cloak, and when he took it out again, his hand was white as snow with a severe skin disease. Now put your hand back into your cloak, the Lord said. So Moses put his hand back in, and when he took it out again, it was as healthy as the rest of his body. The Lord said to Moses, if they do not believe you and are not convinced by the first miraculous sign, they will be convinced by the second sign. And if they don't believe you or listen to you, even after these 2 signs, then take some water from the Nile River and pour it out onto the dry ground. When you do, the water from the Nile will turn to blood on the ground. But Moses pleaded with the Lord, oh Lord, I am not very good with words. I have never been, and I am not now, even though you have spoken to me. I get tongue-tied and my words get tangled. Then the Lord asked Moses, who makes a person's mouth? Who decides whether people speak or do not speak, hear or do not hear, see or do not see? Is it not I, the Lord? Now go. I will be with you as you speak, and I will instruct you in what to say. But Moses again pleaded, Lord, please send anyone else. Then the Lord became angry with Moses. All right, he said, what about your brother Aaron the Levite? I know he speaks well, and look, he is on his way to meet you now. He will be delighted to see you. Talk to him and put the words in his mouth. I will be with both of you as you speak, and I will instruct you both in what to do. Aaron will be your spokesman to the people. He will be your mouthpiece, and you will stand in the place of God for him, telling him what to say. And take your shepherd's staff with you and use it to perform the miraculous signs I have shown you. Now, we will be continuing with Moses' faith journey next week. So this is not how the story ends, because I still haven't gotten answers to the discrepancy in, the verses in Hebrews 11 and then what we actually read of Moses' faith journey in, Exodus. But I think the clearest thing to me is that when God sends you, when God actually calls you to do something, it will all be counted. You know how that verse says, count it all joy. That means even in your distress, even in your pain and your sorrow, count it all joy, because eventually the joy will come and it will make up for all the hurt that you've been through. And so I see that in Moses' faith journey as well, that in Hebrews we are just told this brief summary of how he was this valiant man that chose to share the oppression of God's people. But we are reading that really and truly Moses was a very scared man. Moses was a man who protested against the call. He did not willingly choose to share the oppression of God's people. God had to essentially force him, because even when he wanted to count himself out, I love the fact that God didn't discount him. He just told him, okay, don't worry, go with somebody else. And it's something that really consoled me, because there's always this narrative of, oh, if you miss your assignment, God will give it to somebody else. And yeah, maybe, but in Moses' story, I see that he's not going to give it somebody else. He may raise somebody else to go with you, but you're still going. You can't dodge God's call on your life, And so, yeah, it's all counted. So even your unbelief, even your moments of wavering, even your slowlessness and dragging your feet, it all comes together to count, and I'm consoled by that. And the second thing that really stood out to me in this section of Moses' faith journey was understanding that we are overshadowed as children of God. We are overshadowed by the power of God. I love how every time Moses would try and say, who am I to go, who am I to speak, asking God, I'm not the one you should be sending. God would be reminding him, don't focus on who I'm sending, focus on who is sending you. God will tell him, I am that I am. I am the God of your father, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I am the God who has done so much so far. Believe me, count me, count on me, bank on me. You're not going in your own capacity, you're going in the capacity of the one who is sending you. And even in chapter 2, where we are told that God heard the groaning of the people and knew it was time to act. Moses was really just a vessel, and with all his limitations and all the excuses that he was trying to give, it could not come against what God was going to do. And that really consoled me, because it's a reminder that me and you are vessels. I am has sent us, I am sent him, and I am has sent us to do so much. And so even me, like I said, I'm feeling so lethargic in this season. I'm feeling like, God, I just want to relax, I just want to chill. There's so much going on around me. Can I use my free time to just I don't know, pamper myself? And God is like, no, now is the time to work. Now is the time to talk. Now is the time to let your light shine. And so, like I said, we'll be continuing with Moses' faith journey next week. So this is not the end of the story, but I do want to end this video by sharing, this quote by Marianne Williamson that has been speaking to me so much. And I feel like it perfectly encapsulates this section of Moses' journey. And it says, our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Who am I to go to Pharaoh? Who am I to talk? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. And you will see, in next week's journey and in the continuing studies, that from Moses's faith journey sparked the faith of a people. And, because he did get over his fear and do what God asked him to do, so many people were able to also get over their fear and go on the journey that God had called them to go on. So, yeah, I pray you are blessed by this week's study. And for next week, we will be studying Hebrews 11, verse 28, and Exodus 5 to 12. That is Exodus 5, Exodus 6, Exodus 7, Exodus 8, Exodus 9, Exodus 10, Exodus 11, Exodus 12. I know it's a long one, but it's an easy read. You already know the story for the most part, and we will be focusing on chapter 12. So I'll see you next week. I love you, but never forget, Jesus loves you the most. Bye, fam.